Hello, welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, you can send questions and comments along to our live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. One of those is oddly not working right now, but we'll figure that out. And so, so good to see you here. And as always, you can catch the chat replay after the show. So, you know me. My name is John Ruark. I am a past master of the Patriot Lodge number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Let's head over to Joe Martinez for his introduction. Da, 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 da. Hi, Joe.
Hello. Hi. I am Joe Martinez. Wait for my name.
Yeah.
There it is. Woo! Joe Martinez. I am the current master of Manasseh Lodge number 182. That's my name again. And I'm a Mason in a whole bunch of other places. And I love technology and Freemasonry. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Woo!
Love it. Next up, Jason Richards. Hello and good evening.
Hi, hello, and good evening, everybody. Jason Richards. I'm a past master of a lodge in Virginia, member one in DC, and one in Ohio as well.
Woo! Awesome. Okay, well, it's good to have you here. And Robert says he'll be fashionably late when he gets here. He'll get here. But definitely want to give a shout out to all of the patrons who've been supporting the show for quite some time. You guys are awesome, and you make this show carry on for such a long time. You guys rock, and we can't thank you enough from the bottom of our hearts. So I was trying to dabble.
We love you all a long time.
Yes, very, very long time.
Very yes.
And so if you'd like to join us and have our little weekly discussion in the private Facebook group, head over to patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable. You guessed it. And we'd love to see you there. So thanks.
You know, John, 2 weeks ago, we hit 8 years.
No.
And we totally didn't announce it or do a special episode.
You know, I'm really bad with anniversaries, so let's just call it for that. All right, Jason, go to your recap show right now. Favorite moment
My
from the
recap
past
show?
I don't know. Favorite moment from the past 8 years. Go.
Favorite moment from the past 8 years. Does it have to be a show or something else?
Favorite moment from the past 8 years.
Favorite moment from the past 8 years has to be TMR related. When we went to the Pennsylvania College of Masonic Knowledge.
Academy of Masonic Knowledge.
PA Academy of Masonic Knowledge in 2016. I want to say 2016. And we all got to meet up first time, and that was the first real big Masonic speaking event I had ever done.
That was fun. Good times. Joe, from years ago, 8 years ago, where were you? No, really, where were you? I don't think we.
Where was I? What was 8 years ago? That was what, 2014? 2014. I was probably working really late. I hadn't got back into Freemasonry yet, so
really?
I was still in my in between phase, having left Freemasonry because I was kind of disenfranchised and I hadn't joined yet. I got back into it in 2015 actually. So I was probably working way too much and missing out on all of this. But my favorite moment was when when I joined the Masonic Roundtable, which was only a few months ago. So that'll probably be my favorite moment for quite a while until I catch up to you guys.
That'll hold you over. Good.
Well, that's good.
We love you, Joe.
We love you more.
No. Let's see.
You
For
do.
me, since nobody asked, I guess I'd have to say it was the the 300th anniversary of Freemasonry. When we had the little celebration in Alexandria. That was cool. That was a good time.
300-ish anniversary.
Had an international little gathering and had a good time. Had vendors, had patents signed by Ryan Flynn. We had tattoo artists. We had the whole shebang. It was really fun. Long day.
Mine is hanging on my wall. I was there. I signed it.
I saw. I was looking at mine the other day. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, mine's up there.
I've got mine right there.
Got mine right there, but off camera.
Mine is there.
Fun fact: I was the first signature on the patent.
Fun fact: you probably forced your way. You're the guy pushing through the line. I want to sign first. John
You're
Hancock.
not entirely wrong.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
Oh, pardon me, brother. Huh.
Like in Seinfeld when George there's a fire and he kicks all the kids out of the way, and
Yes.
that's Jason signing a patent.
Uh,
Good times. All right, so
you gotta get that prime real estate, man. Once it's gone, it's gone.
So speaking of, ideas from long ago, we actually have done a few technology and the craft hot takes, but yet it's been a while, and there's this thing called technology which always changes, right? It doubles every 18 months, and so I think this time it's a good time to revisit not only what technological aspects there are or could be applied to the craft, but also the pros and cons that come with that. And so this is an idea that Robert had been kicking around, and we've kind of tried to think about what are some of the more modern takes on this. Not necessarily so much the COVID enhancements that have come. We've talked a little bit about that as far as Zooming meetings and Zooming presentations and all that. But we'll try to think of some of the other unorthodox applications, both current and future, and then try to see what are the best applications of said technology. So I want to kind of set the stage first and say that while very clearly biased towards pro technology, but Joe got in that word first. But I'm also not one that says we need to apply it for everything. So just to start off, my basic hot take is that technology is a tool, and a tool only, and so we should be at least applying the tools that are to at least keep up with modern society, right? So we're not necessarily a living museum, right? So we're not still using quills and inkwells to write documents, Joe, and so there are things that we at least at a minimum need to keep up with the modern world, and there's nuances to that as well. Joe?
Well, I was yes, I think you framed it well, but just to be very candid, I think the fraternity as a whole has not done a great job in embracing, let's call it, your bare bones technologies, right? You can go to a lodge website today and it's super awesome. It's in Wix. It's got flash animation. Well, that stuff's gone. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't have Flash.
Animated GIFs.
Magic. Yeah, I was thinking of Homestar Runner, but so
Angular.
cool pages and all this magic stuff. But then you can go to the lodge 5 miles down the road and they still have like a GeoCities page up. So there's a big difference between that baseline technology that everybody should use and not even playing in that pool to begin with. You know what I mean? And it's all a perspective thing, right? I mean, let's go back to the example.
Any York Rite body, just go to any York Rite body's website.
That is an excellent point. But the thing is, there's some lodges
it's gotten
that
better. They've gotten better
a tiny bit. But the point in all of this is we should have a consensus. Oh man, somebody said Angel Fire.
They were made in Microsoft Paint.
You get 2 points. Yes,
Angel Fire.
Right on.
GeoCities.
Nice.
Yes.
Netscape. But there's got to be a baseline, right? If you're either going to be online or you're not going to be online. And if you're going to be online, don't post a web page from 1997 and keep that thing.
And that's my point. So as I was thinking about preparing for this show, I'm just going to kind of get right to my point, which is that think about any other interactions with technology in modern society, right? Or I'm not even going to call it modern society. In society, like if you want to buy things at a store, you use either a credit card or Apple Pay, Google Pay. But if you want to pay for dues, 95 to 99% of the time, it will be cash or check. right? And
Check
so
preferred.
check preferred.
Check is preferred. Yes.
It just blows my mind that it's like that is one easily fixed stumbling block, right? To at least catch up with society, not even modern society. It's just society at writ large. And so there are other examples that I'm sure we'll think of tonight about how we're not talking about going into like pure holographic VR masonry, right? Maybe we are, but at least as far as can we keep up with Walmart? Can we keep up with you know modern communication that you can text your mom, but you can't text your lodge? Like there are
Well,
things that we need to do to keep
Ooh.
up.
whereas Walmart is a business and knows it's a business, Freemasonry
Ooh.
is a
Well, let's
business
let's
that
let
hasn't quite figured that out yet.
that's I mean
Nonprofits are not a business, and they still have
that's right.
technology.
I mean that's a
Yeah.
that's an existential point which I wanna rewind a little bit to what John was saying with I can text, my wife, but I can't text my lodge. Um, I'm just giving you a personal example. There are still, I'd say, about 10% of the people on my membership roll that do not have an email address, do not physically have it. My mom has an email address, and my mom is, she came here off a boat, and English was not her first language. And y'all have met my mom. She still doesn't speak super awesome English, but everybody loves her because she's so adorable. But
She is a lovely lady.
she has an email address and she can check her email. It's amazing. So it kind of baffles me that you still have people that are just absolutely averse to using technology of any sort, and they make it difficult for everybody else. And I know that's a generalization, but it's my turn on the mic, so I can say whatever I want. So
Okay, so like just to get into specifics, right? Suncard19 on YouTube says, "Hey, well, okay, well then, if we're going to pay dues with some sort of digital transaction, who's going to pay the transaction fee? The lodge or the member? I don't care. Pick one, right? Like I've seen
right,
it both ways. I've seen that if you wish to pay online, then we pass that fee over to you. I've also seen, hey, guess what? Even before that, banking accounts had fees, and they were paid for by the lodge just to have a bank account at the local bank.
yes,
That was paid for by the lodge, which was paid for by dues by the members.
banks are not for profits. They
Right?
actually generate
They are
money,
not for profits. Got it. That's a double
not for
negative.
profit.
Gotcha.
You're a double negative.
You are not incorrect. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, we're not asking for anything that's a burden. We're asking to keep up with just again how what the standard transactions, the status quo. Same thing when you said email address, right? Another thought that came to mind earlier was trestle boards. There was an argument even as late as when I was master of the lodge, all those many years ago, that said, "Oh well, we still have to print out trestle boards, right?" I said, "What? And do what with them? Mail them, okay?
Kill
To
trees.
to whom? Yes. Well, to that one guy who doesn't have an email address or a computer. All right. Why? And you get those looks when you start saying why. Well,
Oh
we've
yeah.
always done it that way, right? It's the favorite expression of Freemasonry.
Yep.
Joe.
So I am proud to say that we print and mail 300 trestle boards a month. But
What?
yeah, but I still send it by email. But there's those folks that may not get it. So I was told that it's a good idea to just mail them all out. So 300 a month.
So should we pass that fee over to the brethren as well? Hey, we'll gladly email the trestle board, but if you'd like a physical copy, the lodge will incur a fee per recipient.
Yep.
No difference, right? Because one, you're expecting in the digital world to have a convenience fee paid for by the brother. Well, then the same should be true. The convenience fee of having a hard copy mailed to you should also carry said fee. Where it's free
and
otherwise.
right. I mean, it's Well, that's another point too. I mean, I know I can only speak from personal experience, but I know that my lodge pays for a special bulk postage stamp that we print on our trestle boards, and we have to send out a certain minimum, otherwise we don't qualify. And my question is, why do we need to qualify for it? Like, what is the
Right.
purpose of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yes, and yes, Sun Card, yes, the it can be delivered by horse and buggy. We still have some rural roads out here, so it certainly could be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Right.
I think I'm gonna walk away really angry after this episode. I'm just gonna like as soon as the lights go off, I'm just gonna punch things.
Yeah, well, next week we'll see his bookshelf all askew. He'll rage quit TMR. It's great.
Every single skull is going to be like, oh, that's much more accurate now.
So, Jason, let's talk about bringing technology as far as the bare minimum of society into the lodge business, right? What bare minimum standards of social acceptance would you like to see, kind of as a new status quo for technology and Freemasonry, at least up to the business meeting, etc.
So that's a difficult one because different lodges need different things
Sure.
based on their membership. I would say the bare minimum. I'm channeling my inner Alex Powers here. The bare minimum, you need the capability to either produce or replicate your lodge minutes electronically. That is the one piece of technology that is an absolute must. I think everything else, yes, I could say Wi-Fi so that you can have great virtual presentations or, yeah, you can email out all your trestle boards, a lodge email address, a lodge Facebook page. These are all things that are awesome,
They are
but
nice to
if
have,
you're
not
specifically,
necessarily required.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So for me, you have a duty to Freemasonry to make sure that your records and your history is well preserved. And Amity, the Lodge of Amity number 5 has shown us that just storing them in a safe isn't good enough.
Yeah. So remind us what happened there.
Back in January, the Lodge of Amity number 5, which is a sister lodge in Zanesville, Ohio, ended up burning down to the ground, and they lost everything.
And they had a safe with all the records in it, correct?
They did. They did not count on that safe falling 6 floors to the basement and being on fire for over a week.
Well, who does? That's
Well, right. You know.
usually a doozy right there.
Yeah.
It's fair. You're not
let,
wrong in
let,
that, yeah.
let me ask a very dumb question. So, are you talking about they? I mean, they lost their old stuff for sure, but did they lose the minutes of the week prior to the prior to the fire, like, or were those electronic?
I will have to ask my buddy, worshipful brother David Merkel for
And that's kind of where
confirmation
I
on
was
that.
going with this is because I know at least in some jurisdictions it's being mandated that you transmit this stuff electronically. Like minutes you have to keep electronic and you have
Oh
to
wow,
submit
that's good.
electronically and
Hmm.
stuff. I mean, we live in one of them right now. The old way of filling out a report with a pen and paper, that does not work anymore. You have to, and whether you don't have that resource at the lodge to do it, you have to submit stuff electronically. And I think it should be mandated. So, one of those times where I'm like, "Yay, Grand Lodge, do something."
Hmm.
Um, I think that
Got to
should be
preserve
mandated.
our history.
All right. Okay. So, would you agree, Joe, then, with at least at a bare minimum to have your official records, your minutes and the like, at least be up to digital standards, like just to get off of paper for now, right? Obviously, you can hit print anytime, right? So it's not the well. What about the copy? What about all the whataboutisms? Right. You could still print off a copy which is great, a backup strategy, right? You should always be backing up everything for the exact reason, like Jason just said. But it should be digital first rather than digital second.
No, I am a firm believer in digital first. I actually like trees. I don't like to print. I know there's people that still love to print things out and read them by paper. That those times are slowly going away. You know what I mean? Digital first, I think, is the way to go. And um, even taking you mentioned brother Alex Powers, even going back and taking your older records and digitizing them, whether it's professionally or not, I think that is the way to go as well. Take all of your records and keep a digital record of them, so in case something, God forbid, happens, you do have a record that goes on forever. So at a bare minimum, I would say yes, digital first all the way. But if you're going back to your question, if you are a functional lodge and you have people that show up and you do things once in a while, I'm setting a really low bar here. I think some of those nice to haves are really important, because we live in a digital world. We don't live in a newspaper, weekly periodical world anymore, where I talk to a lot of older brothers, and they talk about things like, oh, we used to advertise in the local newspaper and stuff, and I'm like, that's great. Nobody reads the local newspaper, not a single person. Everybody grabs a copy and uses it to line their puppy rack, and that's it. It literally. Nobody
You
reads
mean
them
we
anymore.
shouldn't teach lodges how to write press releases for upcoming lodge events?
Yeah,
like a
we should
certain PR department.
we should teach them how to write Facebook event notices and Instagram posts, because those get seen by more
TikTok.
eyeballs.
TikTok.
Okay,
TikTok.
so let's switch to PR then, right? The first thing comes to mind is you have your general advertising, and then you have um, really just like how do you announce events and the like, right? So it seems to be that at least trestle boards aside, that you may get some email notifications from the master. You may get some, maybe if they're on social media like Facebook, then that's an option as well. But then we've had Nick Harvey on the show talking about running actual no kidding paid Facebook ads for upcoming events, where your reach is much more than just my little clique of members who are only in this little private group that nobody knows about. It actually shows up on other people's pages, so that oh, hey, what's this? They're having a free event at the Masonic Lodge. I think I've heard of those guys. Oh, and it's free, and you can bring your kids. Okay, cool. In fact, I wanted to give an update since we've had Nick Harvey on the show, where he talked about the smashing success he had with running Facebook ads to announce these. I think they had like a magician come to the lodge and have this open event where people could bring kids. He says for that one event he already had like 3 or 4 petitions come out of that, and just saw him at Masonic Week just a couple weeks ago. Asked him how his social media campaigns have been going. He said we had to turn them off. I was like, I was waiting for the worst. I'm like, you're kidding? I'm like, no. Who told you to like turn them off? He goes, oh no. We weren't told to turn them off. We had to turn them off. I was like, what happened? No. We got too many new applicants coming in. We've got like 7 or 8 guys that are going through the degrees right now. We had to stop getting new members in the door so we could take care of the guys and give them the attention. I was like, oh, I love you, Nick. This is great. This is awesome to hear. Right? That alone, like it's one anecdote, but it's the only data point we have consistently of how lodges and grand lodges can use social media to actually recruit.
I would say it's not the only data point. I mean, we do
Mm-hmm.
have, and want to stay in the vein of PR, but let's look at and don't get me wrong, all of you know me, I am really annoying on Facebook, and when I advertise for things, I advertise in a lot of places, right, to get a lot of eyeball reach. Um, Realizing that I'm doing it for a not for profit, but talking about that, I can't say too many bad things about the beafreemason.org campaign, that a lot of Grand Lodges have jumped on. That was started by the Scottish Rite and was given to Grand Lodges. Um, I see hits all the time as master of my lodge. I get emails at least once a week saying, "Hey, this person filled out this form. They live in your zip code," because it ties. Once they put a response in, it goes to that geographic center, and then it goes to the person in charge of that, which is normally the district deputy, and then he sends it out to lodges that are close to that person's proximity. I get at least once a week an email saying someone is interested in Freemasonry, lives near my lodge, and here's all this contact information.
Mm-hmm.
So super useful.
Right. So that's working, right? So that is a definite, clear benefit of using, again, modern communication. Won't even call it technology, just modern communication, in order to get awareness of lodge activities.
So John, can we? I know we've talked about this a bunch of times in past shows, but just with Patriot Lodge, um, the Facebook advertising and presence that you all had
Right.
to reach college age individuals who are students,
Mm-hmm.
active students, like
Yeah, so and that was interesting too. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Being the first lodge chartered in over 30 years, all the way back in 2011, we actually had to be creative because we were targeting a specific audience of men that we wanted to hopefully join one day. Um, so we had to keep up with where those eyeballs were, right? So I'm going to put on my Gary Vaynerchuk hat and say that you have to. It's all about getting attention, right? It's all about getting um, eyeballs on whatever it is that you're trying to showcase. So one thing that worked really well for us, surprisingly, is we had a brother who found out that the digital TV screens that were playing either TV or advertisements during the meal times, actually you could get some airtime on there, and it was super cheap, right? Because it was run by the university. So it says all we need to do is have someone drum up like a slide, like no kidding, like one static image. It's like, well, I can knock that out in 10 or 15 minutes. Just let me fire up some graphics. And he's like, oh, and they need a URL to post to. Great. So sure enough, right, we had a URL, and then that's when we started getting people interested in coming to lodge, which is great because in other words, they wouldn't have found out about it by reading the campus newspaper, if that was still a thing at the time necessarily, right? They're sitting there having lunch with their pals. They look up, boom, there it is, right in their face. And that's a digital medium, not necessarily a phone tree or a newspaper advertisement. And so it
it
had to be
helps.
digital.
It helps too when your past master of your lodge is the person who dresses up as the namesake of the college.
Yes, George Mason himself, yes, was also
Yes.
there.
Yes. Good George Mason he is. But you said something that was kind of interesting, and just to, because I know every time you say the word modern, I cringe a little bit.
I know.
We're
It
talking
weird.
about technologies that are 20 plus years old.
Contemporary.
It feels really weird.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Current.
Yeah, it's weird to say that, right? Like we keep forgetting we live in 2022.
It's like talking about the current geological era that goes back like
yes,
18,000 years.
The Neolithic. But what I was going to say
Holocene, but
yes, that too. What I was going to say was that it's interesting how in 2022, and I know for us older fogies, it's kind of a hard concept to grasp, but, and I'm going to throw you in the old fogies group as well. Email is
not me. I'm
really
the young one.
Yeah, but you're still an old fogey, because I'm going to tell you why. Email is no longer the primary form of communication for business or in personal use, right? It is really gone by the wayside in terms of how important it is and how much of an impact it has in people's daily lives. They send more chats and tweets and direct messages through different apps than they do through email. And email is really starting to become a thing of the past, and businesses are driving that. You know what I mean? And I know we weren't going to talk about how COVID affected technology implementation, but it kind of pushed a lot of those different apps to the forefront, right? Things like Teams and Slack and stuff like that.
Right.
They really are becoming the primary means that businesses are communicating with one another, and email is now secondary.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So let's call it for what it is. It has staying power, right? So having a Zoom meeting now is very commonplace, and it's it's survived. It's outlasted the fad phase, and it's been now beyond the hype cycle, right? Of the early adopters, right? Really, the really cool kids who are really nerdy, right? Get on it, but then if it doesn't catch on, it doesn't catch on. Now you're seeing Zoom meetings at a regular basis, regardless of generational type, or I'm not even going to talk about just lodge. Just everything's being done over Zoom. My HOA has Zoom meetings still for their their architecture review committees. So again, that's now the new status quo. Not modern technology. It is the new normal. I hate to say it that way. Of
something
technology.
else that's interesting as well. Emails have become, the new like written documents and contracts, because you have things like DocuSign, but more importantly, if I want to document something and like record it as a record, I will type it up in an email and send it.
Right.
Like, so, it's interesting how technology as a whole has just like shifted right as far as what it's used for.
Right, so that becomes the minimum standard of acceptable communication, right? So if you have someone who knows nothing about Freemasonry today, then you have things that like, oh, you guys don't Zoom your meetings? Like, why would you why wouldn't you do that? And you're like, well, we're different, we're unique because and this, and you're like, we got super secret business meetings. Oh, okay, so what kind of secrets do you discuss in the business meetings? Bills?
The secrets of Freemasonry.
All the secrets.
Yes. Lodge business. Do we have any sick and distressed? Sick and distressed? Anyone?
Yeah. Right. So yeah, so that's again, that's what I'm advocating for, is like, can we at least keep up with the pace of that? And so we want to consider, and there's been some good comments made on the YouTube chat about, well, we should be considerate of those brethren who don't want to adapt to technology. Sure, right? We're a fraternal organization. We want to take care of our own, and yet that should not prohibit that, because as a fan of Austrian economics, right, you also have to consider the unseen as well. You have to consider the men that didn't join because they couldn't find the lodge by Googling it. You have to consider, right, the people that
impossible to quantify, though.
Not impossible.
Near impossible to quantify.
Nigh impossible.
Nigh impossible.
Ooh. I would argue that a little bit, only because
mostly impossible.
But I would throw some color on it. Let me say, because I don't want to argue that point. But
mostly not impossible.
I don't even know what you're saying anymore. Oh, I was remember now. So
impossible-ish.
Good God. What about
we do this just to mess with Joe?
I know that. I'm going to send you a gift in the mail. It will be anonymous. You know exactly what
I muted Jason. You're good to go.
Thank you. No, what I was going to say was, I would counter that argument with how many people go to their, are interested in Freemasonry and go to a website, John, and it is like some 1984 stuff, and they're like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. There's no way in hell I'm going to this building and talking to these guys. That's equally as much of a turnoff as, you go to them and all you see is like some old White Pages post about where their address is and stuff, because they don't have an online presence.
Right. Yep.
Now, so what were you saying, Jason? No, I want to hear what Jason was saying. That was so important. Go.
So here's something. There's another
what?
Really interesting comment online. There's the plus side to to being paper-based is that it's not able to be hacked or compromised. So does pushing and being more forward-leaning in the technology space, given that we, have a current CISO with us, you know, like does that open the fraternity up to loss of data, theft of data, cyber attacks?
Good question.
Were you asking me?
Let's see, who's the
I
most
was asking the
qualified?
group.
Yeah.
You.
So I would say, I mean, in terms of yes, I'm there. Yep. I would say that's kind of a terrible argument to make, because it is so inexpensive and so commoditized, the practice of security around data, especially when we're talking about being in a cloud-based world. And most of your lodges don't live in a cloud-based world. They just don't. The that bare minimum of technology that you were talking about, like making sure our minutes are electronic, that could be something as simple as, secretary having a laptop and bringing it to lodge, right? Now, are there common sense things we can do? Yes, like make sure all of that free encryption that we have sitting on our devices is turned on and stuff like that. Absolutely, but that shouldn't stop us from moving forward, right? Because, at the end of the day, I don't know about the way you guys do things, but I've never seen a lodge's minutes that have social security numbers or things like
Right.
that,
Yeah. No
So,
PII or anything like that.
it talks about how
No,
much life
they
costs
have
that
the
month.
secrets of Freemasonry.
All of them.
Not in the
All
minutes,
of them.
bro. Not in the minutes.
Well, so that reminds me.
No, they're
I
in
don't know.
the online copy of Duncan's
I
that you
don't know
can
if I've
find anywhere
ever.
on the
I don't know
web.
if I've ever told this story, but I did visit a lodge. I won't say where, and to account for the frailty of the secretary's voice and the largeness of the meeting hall, they installed a little PA system with wireless mics that they bought from like Radio Shack. So, um, it was not top of the line like encrypted wireless mics that you could literally buy the same receiver at Radio Shack and sit outside the lodge building and listen to everything that's in the tiled meeting.
Yeah, but is that really going to get through the 2 feet of? Is that really going to get through the 2 feet of concrete and
Of
asbestos that you
asbestos,
find
yeah.
in most lodges? No, that signal is going to get diffused. So don't worry about it.
Don't worry
Cancer.
about it.
Yes.
We'll just stick a octogenarian outside with a sword. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So now let's shift gears. Okay, so we've talked enough about status quo and like what are the minimum standards of society. Now let's go above and beyond, right? What's coming next for potential use of lodge technology and the pros and cons of applying each of those. So payment, you know me, I love my crypto. How do we how would it be best be used for a lodge to accept crypto as a form of payment? What are the pros and cons of doing that? Jason.
So I think the cons for lodges accepting crypto would be the market volatility. No, not at all. That's not the con at all. I think the biggest con is the fact that crypto technology is getting much more mainstream, but there's still a barrier to entry. Like to send and receive, you need to have a wallet set up and things of that nature. Once we get to the point where crypto is entirely embedded within like a PayPal type of system, or you can just send it directly to your bank or something along those lines, I think it'll greatly lessen the barrier to entry. But to right now, the technology is not widely adopted enough to, I think, outweigh the pro of adding another way to pay your dues. Ultimately, from a pro's perspective, um, it's further diversifying the way that brethren can stay current on their fiscal obligations.
Right.
And you know, I think someone once told me that that crypto is something like this generation's middle finger to the establishment. Like there generally
to,
you see a lot
right,
of
to the
younger
centralized,
generations. Yeah.
right, the centralized financial institutions, et cetera, right? Still holds value, right? But yeah, obviously, it could be a benefit to the lodge if the lodge were to hold that as part of its portfolio, right? To accept dues and fees and payments as some sort of value exchange. Um, Joe is wincing in his seat as I say
I
this.
wanna believe me. I love cryptocurrency.
Hmm.
And y'all know I do. But and to Jason's point, a lot of your major banking systems are now starting to implement the ability to
Right.
buy and store crypto
Hmm.
within.
They're getting
So
there.
that's it is getting there. I'd say. I mean, we're less than 6 months away from full implementation on stuff, which is fantastic, right? You can add that to your investment portfolio. You can add it to your regular bank where you have a checking account. So that's super great. Um, I do think since there is such a large amount of mainstream cryptocurrencies, I'm not even going to talk about the one-off coins that pop up for no reason,
Yeah,
or
no
for a
Doge.
particular reason.
To the
Right,
moon.
to the moon. But I think we're a lot farther along in terms of implementing that as a standard form of currency in such a traditional based system. Just because, and I know you laughed at it, but the volatility of the market is absurd, right? It really, really is.
Yeah,
It's worse than a
not unlike how the dollar is worth only about 2 to 3% of what it was in 1913. But there's that.
yes. There's
So
that too. Yes.
We've got a soft spot in our hearts for fiat currency, man.
yes, we do. Okay, here I'm gonna throw another curveball at you. VR. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? This is something that first thing comes to mind when you think technology and the future of Freemasonry. Boy, we all just want to jump to, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we could put on some VR goggles and explore the universe with us and the master builders, right? What comes to mind when you
Knock
hear
over
that?
a floor lamp while you're, opening
Kill,
lodge. I don't know.
Or you
kill,
set
yeah,
fire to your lodge, Jason?
kill your dog while you're circumambulating. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So attending lodge in VR, yay or nay? But you've been to Civil Lodge. You've been to Civil Lodge.
That's an
I
online.
have.
That's
One step
different.
away.
No, it's not. No, it's not. There's a
One
world of
step.
difference. Wrong. I disagree. No, absolutely not. First of all, I know many handsome people in civil. I would not want to be in VR world with them. Don't get me wrong. You know who you are. I love all of you, but there's a big difference between. Well, let's talk about what we're talking about here. If you're talking about going to a stated business meeting and talking about correspondence and bills and things like that, then yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's on Zoom or if you're putting on your Oculus
John,
and
zip your
sitting next
pants
to each other.
back up, please.
Yeah, what was going on with the zipping there? That was really weird.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
There we go.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't think you could get any nerdier.
I've got
that's pretty bad.
Virtual Joe here.
And you can't hear it.
Do you have? Are you looking at
Wow.
me?
I'm seeing you in 3D.
Oh, really?
It's amazing.
Come
Wow.
over here. I'll show you 4D, like Disney.
This is a kid's show.
This is a
Yes.
kid.
So back to what our fans are asking for. Yeah, boring stated business meetings. Sure, no difference between Zoom and VR, but degrees and initiation and stuff like that. That's a hard pass on that. No way, Jose. There are
Yes,
still thumbs.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say that if we can do Castle Island Virtual Lodge via modern, streaming platforms of like Zoom and the like, then attending lodge that way, as long as the encryption's the same and that kind of stuff, then your normal business meetings, I think, could be done in virtual reality.
And they were for some jurisdictions. Let's not
Sure.
forget. And again, I'm bringing COVID back again, even though we don't want to. But as we're talking about it, like it's over. But there were lodges that were conducting business via Zoom. They were balloting on petitions. They were voting on bills. They were doing all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. I mean, I'm sure most of them have stopped by now, but they were doing it. So it is possible and it is feasible. And there doesn't really change the game in terms of, the look
Well,
of Freemasonry.
okay, and so Meta, the new Facebook, that's what they're really trying to push now, right? Is they're trying to push the fact that we'll be having business meetings in VR, and you'll have your little avatar sitting around, a table, just like a business table, except now you can do a virtual whiteboard and you can do all this other stuff. Obviously, there's a long way to go. Society has not adapted that as a status quo yet. However, like I could see that being a low barrier of entry to, okay, instead of one big table, we're going to have one guy over there in the east, we're going to have one guy over here in the west, we're going to have one guy in the south. And it's not the same, not a replacement, but it could be feasible for those brethren who are like the whole reason Castle Island Virtual Lodge was set up in the first place. It's too far to drive and we're too old. Wouldn't it be great if we could just sit virtually together, break bread, and have a stated business meeting?
And they are a perfect model for success when it comes to that, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
every civil meeting I've been to, you had brothers that were 85 years old, and you had brothers that were really, really aged,
smashing the ritual, just crushing it. Yeah,
absolutely. And it really was a model for success, because they all had buy-in together, and they thought of it together and they implemented it together. I mean, I think that really is one of the few and far between models where it can totally work and it works really well. But again, to your point, they don't initiate members, right?
Bingo.
They don't.
Right.
So that's the line for me.
Mm-hmm. How about NFTs? Should lodges use NFTs in any sort of value holding, charitable fundraising? What do you think?
You had to bring up the NFT thing.
I had to use the NFT word. Yes, I did. Non-fungible tokens. Joe, what are NFTs for those who don't know?
You just told everybody what it was.
Well, okay, what's a non-fungible token, Joe?
It's a token that you can't funge.
Well, okay, that's it. Any questions? Hearing none. Let's move on.
No, but seriously, I think since you did bring it up, it's no, I think there's still a volatile market. It's really, I mean, I would liken it to, to make sense in my brain, I would liken it to comic book collecting. You know what I mean? That market is so volatile, and it really is what the person will pay versus what the thing is actually worth. You know what I mean? So that's.
Isn't that one and the same? Hashtag
well,
economics.
I mean, that's like fiat currency, but yeah.
Right, but I can't pay my electric bill with a non-fungible token, though.
Dude, I got some apes that I'm ready to just start converting over for some power. Yeah.
Well, and so, to me, NFTs, it's still very much new and exciting, but I really do think the vast majority of NFT enterprises will fail. I think there will be some that will break the mold by offering other intangible benefits outside of, the owners, being listed on the blockchain in perpetuity. But, Gary Vaynerchuk, John and I love Gary V. And one of the things that he did with NFTs that I thought was practical was he said, okay, if anyone who owns this NFT, this is your ticket to getting into this conference and this convention. Like,
because it's provable that you bought this, and therefore you have all these other real world benefits to owning a digital thing.
Yeah, otherwise, like, the perk to owning an NFT is
we should flip some George Washington pictures as NFTs. That'd be great. Yeah, you could say you own this George Washington. Right. That's not the point. To Jason's point, what if this is going super weird? So roll with me, right? What if your dues card was an NFT?
Oh yeah, I just saw that. What if your dues card was an NFT?
Look at that, Mark. Look at you.
Boom. Plus 5 points, Mark.
5 points to Gryffindor. Dues cards as NFTs, right? Because it's provable that you bought it, and that it gives you access to real world spaces, not unlike what Jason just said.
Can you put expiration
What
dates
if you
on
go
NFTs?
Sure, you
NPD?
can. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can revoke
What?
certification.
That's true. That's right. So you have the owner of the NFT, the original owner, being the Grand Lodge that issued the dues card.
Welcome to the NFT
And then
Roundtable, where we talk about
through
NFTs and
the
technology.
and through the smart contracts you write to govern the NFTs, the Grand Lodges have certain permissions, including revocation, that the end owners of the NFT don't have. Like, it's non-transferable unless the Grand Lodge allows it to be,
Right.
etc.
Get on it, Amity. Put
Okay.
Maury and Grandview out of business. Wow.
Oh
So
man, we're
okay.
lighting everybody up today.
We're really going way off on the deep end, but it has some level of practical application, right? It's not so far out there that it's like that's for uber nerds, and it would be a solution looking for a problem that could actually solve some issues.
I can't even wrap my head around
Well,
it
and
because
it has
we're still on the no email thing, right?
Yes. You
You know,
still print
that's
trestle
what
boards,
we're
right?
contending.
Okay.
Like,
Just checking.
we can't even talk about bleeding edge because we're still trying to get to 2000, right? So it's hard to wrap my head around bleeding edge in this organization.
That's something else to say about NFTs, but that's okay.
Go ahead.
We're past it now.
What
No,
about
say
no?
it.
The moment
No,
has
I want to
Roll
know.
with
I
it.
want to know. I want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Tell me,
No,
Jason.
I'm done.
Tell
No.
Fine.
Wow, it's been a long week.
You really can't leave us hanging.
No, I
man.
lost it. It's gone.
Oh,
I lost it.
you're
It's
a bum.
gone.
You are a bum.
All right, so we got time. We have time for one more, like, bleeding edge technology thing that could benefit the craft. Does anything come to mind? Because we've talked payments. We've talked authentication, really. Are there any other ideas of things that we need in the craft, in our daily transaction with the craft?
More trestle boards.
Zero trust based user authentication to get into lodges.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm tracking here. So let me extrapolate that for a second. In Freemasonry, right, if you travel to a foreign jurisdiction, and let's just say you haven't cleared it with your Grand Lodge, and you are trying to prove yourself to be a Master Mason, there are certain ways that a recipient lodge can examine you to see if you are a Freemason. At this point, there is zero trust because there's zero evidence, especially if you lose your dues card, for example. You have no tangible thing to show them. And so there are ways to gain admittance to a Masonic Lodge. Obviously, we're not going to go into that, where they can examine you to make sure you are a Freemason. This is what in a digital crypto space we'd call this a zero trust environment, where we trust nobody. There is no central authority. And how do I prove that you are you and I am I, and that we can transact together? And that's really what the distributed ledger and all of the, all of the blockchain computations are all about, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, it enables an unequivocal, immutable because it can't be changed.
Right. Proof.
Way of proof of authentication. Yeah.
And auditable.
Yes. Yes, it's auditable.
So if we find out later that John is a shady character, we can now see all the lodges he's tried to visit, and then therefore revoke that certificate of proof.
You said the magic word there, and it was later. So you let John in to
After
that
the
one
fact,
meeting
yeah.
after the fact, right? And all I kept popping into my head was, how many lodges don't have Wi-Fi in their own building? So you're not checking anything.
This
You're
is
going
like
from
way down the road. This is past 2040.
past 24. Then we're good. Then woo, we are good.
That's
2040.
true. Yeah.
We're good.
Way past 2040.
I retract all my negative statements. We are good.
Good to go.
That'll be the day.
Awesome.
You're sassy.
Sassy.
I love you, Joe.
Wow. So we've certainly gone on a journey from printing trestle boards to blockchain for examinations. That's awesome. Okay, with that, let's.
I love it though.
Yeah, we can nerd out all day, but I'm sure we've lost like half of our viewers on the last 5 minutes. So with that, let's bring them back and go for the final thought, final question, starting with Joe. If you were Grandmaster for a day,
never happened, but continue.
This is Magic Land.
Just a day until you got kicked out.
Sorry.
After 2040, maybe. But
what is at least one piece of technology you would mandate to make Freemasonry more universal?
To make it more universal, ooh, you threw a curveball there. So I would say that I would mandate, and this is just from personal experience, I would mandate that any Masons who can travel virtually. I think it's a requirement, because the one thing I've learned in these last 2.5 years is there is so much awesome and beautiful Masonry out there, and 95% of the Masons that you know are provincial Masons. They know Masonry inside their own little lodge or their own little sphere of influence, and they don't really go outside past that. But there's this beauty and this amazing experience that you have meeting people from all over the world, the Near East, Africa, Europe, Asia, Canada, South America. You will have the opportunity to interact Masonically with people today, not 10 years from now, but today, that you never would have met face to face. And I think if you're not doing that, you are absolutely missing out on one of the benefits of being a Mason and getting to interact with people who you would never meet before if you had waited to do it in person. So I think if you have the capability to do so, go and travel virtually, get on a Zoom call in another jurisdiction, meet new brothers. It's your duty to do that, to make yourself a better person. See how these other people are and see how they're living Masonry, and go do that. And buy NFTs. That's all I got.
Buy my digital NFT.
Yes.
Of a digital square and compass. Jason, all right. If you were a Grandmaster for a day, what technology mandate would you make to make Freemasonry more universal?
You must OCR all lodge records.
Ooh, I like it.
I don't care if
OCR
you
means
keep them. Optical character recognition means that I don't care how many reams of paper you keep tucked away in the lodge safe. Every single time you write the minutes by hand, you take a camera or a phone and you snap a picture with an OCR application that converts it to a digital file that is text readable and text searchable, and you back that up.
it's not too hard. And that is certainly something that could be sponsored by the Grand Lodge itself, so not out of the realm of feasibility. Awesome.
Sure, you give the secretary, or you institute like a lodge technology officer, and the Grand Lodge either provides or buys a license of high fidelity OCR
Right.
programs, which are relatively inexpensive at this point.
Buy Adobe. Jesus.
One license per lodge.
Love it. All right.
Adobe.
And
Not a
I'll
sponsor.
say that at a minimum, right, digital payments, right? So if we need the Grand Lodge to, establish the payment system, whether it be PayPal, Square, whatever, to accept credit cards, or Google Pay, Apple Pay, as for all transactions, right, to make it easy for each lodge to do that, that is something that will get us to, again, the status quo of transactions in 2022, which will make paying dues a lot easier, because I got to be honest, I'm one of those, I hate writing checks, because I only write checks for Masonic purposes. That's the only time I get my checkbook out, and then half the time I forget it. Oh, make sure to bring your checkbook to lodge. I'll forget. I'm sorry, I don't carry it with me. So, but I carry my phone with me.
I don't even know where mine is.
I can just go bloop bloop, and I can do a digital payment instantly
Do what?
right there.
What is that noise again?
I think it goes something like bloop bloop, and then all of a sudden magic money flies around. And so, if we were to make that more universal, so that way, you're reducing you're reducing somehow the number of non-payment of dues, because, oh, sorry, I just don't have my checkbook on me, right? Well, it's just this easy, just pay here. It'll reduce the burden of lodges having to worry about all the other handling of paper money, and it getting somehow stuffed into a brother's pocket, and it doesn't get into the books of the lodge, right? There's a lot of problems that could solve. So that would be mine. And so I think with our powers combined, I think that we certainly could solve a lot of problems for the craft.
Boop, boop. I'm just going to do boop, boop. I love it.
And with that, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you next week, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night. Boop, boop.
Wow.
Boop, boop. Boop, boop.